Hello everyone, welcome back to GGN. This is part 2 for this news bulletin today. Alright, we covered Iran a little bit and we got into Syria. Now we're into Pakistan. U.S. drone attacks are killing 49 people for every known terrorist in Pakistan. That's 1 out of every 50 victims of America's deadly drone strikes in Pakistan are actually terrorists, while the rest are innocent civilians, a new report claims today. A joint study by Stanford and New York universities concludes that men, women, and children are being terrorized by the operations 24 hours a day. So much of the blame is on the use of the double tap strike, where a drone fires one missile and then a second as rescuers are trying to drag victims from the rubble. The tactic has cast such a shadow of fear over strike zones that people often wait hours before daring to visit the scene of an attack. Investigators also discovered that communities living in fear of the drones were suffering severe stress and related illnesses. Many parents had taken their children out of school because they were so afraid of a missile strike. Lastly, 345 is the number of drone strikes that have hit Pakistan's tribal areas in the past 8 years. A U.S. drone strike killed 5 in North Waziristan, attacking a targeted house in this Masaki village. So a U.S. drone fired 2 missiles at a house, a village in Pakistan's North Waziristan agency, killing 5 people within, according to reports from security officials who said some of the slain might be militant fighters. So I guess that just makes it okay. It was the second U.S. drone strike against the area in the past 3 days, after Saturday attacked and killed 4 people in a car. So talking about Pakistan, the RAND Corporation, a nice little think tank, says India must prepare for conventional wars with Pakistan and China. Covered recently about how India was actually purchasing jet fighters, and also they were deploying troops along their border with China. But also in India they were having protests over, I believe it was, fuel prices. Also they're having floods as well. So then to Somalia. Remember I mentioned this about how they pretty much have it on lockdown right now with Somalia and al-Shabab. This is from the 18th of September. Thousands flee as Somali forces advance on Kismayo. So the Somali government forces are advancing on the city or the town or village, the key stronghold of the Islamic group al-Shabab, as thousands of residents flee an expected assault. 20 die and 30 wounded in a clash between rival Somali clans. So this was from September 19th. At least 20 people have been killed. It says here, and 30 more injured following clashes between rival clans in central Somalia. The battle broke out last Wednesday. Says the fighting was triggered by long-standing hostilities over the ownership of grazing land and water wells. The report says some have been injured and says tensions are still high in the area. Many residents, including women or children, have fled due to rumors that the two clans are amassing fighters for another battle. Then I saw this article today which kind of wraps it up. This Hizbul Islam quits al-Shabab alliance's shift in Somalia. The Somali militia has announced that it is parting ways with al-Shabab. So the militia spokesman made the surprising announcement on Monday. He told reporters that al-Shabab fighters are no different than unbelievers. He went on to say that al-Shabab had misinterpreted Islam and that the Hizbul Islam is ready to hold talks with the new government. But just like everything else, it's about oil, right? This is from January. Somalia oil exploration and drilling begins in northeast Somalia. So remember we were just talking about the gas reserves and the little dispute between Turkey, Greece, and Israel. And you have this, a different little splinter of factions going on. Mali's secular Tuareg rebel splinter, new group, says independence is unrealistic. So the former colonel of the Tuareg rebel group fighting for an independent homeland of Mali's north announced Monday he is leaving the movement because its goal of independence is unrealistic. Lastly, Mali was plunged into turmoil in March after a coup in the capital of Bamako created a security vacuum. Then you have Ethiopia's new prime minister sworn into office. He looks a pretty strict dude. And this comes after what? The former premier died in August at the age of 57. And they said that the cause of death was unknown. It was a mystery illness. Remember that? That was this guy. CIA takes over as Ethiopia regime crumbles, so that wasn't working out too well for them. So now they got this dude, and it says here, Sudan, South Sudan presidents in Ethiopia for summit on bilateral ties. If you remember, the U.S. was trying to send Marines over there in the Sudan. But like I just said, it's like everything else. It's about the recolonization of Africa and the exploitation of their resources. Iraq aims to unite with new national anthem and flag. Iraq is seeking to replace its national anthem and flag in a move aimed at providing unifying national symbols and putting decades of conflict and hardship, that's what you call it, in the country behind it. So then we have Turkish public sours on Syrian uprising. I've been covering Turkey and the PKK and the Turks, and how the Kurds are in the middle, right? And there could be an actual autonomous Kurdistan created, and that Erdogan and Turkey are supporting the Zionists in that, and they may actually screw themselves at the same time, because they'll have to be dealing with the PKK, which could be actually funded by Iran and Syria to create instability in Turkey, so they could stop supporting invasion and regime change of Syria. So, but the Turkish public is not for it. So as the war rages next door, Turks have grown increasingly weary of the nearly daily reports of troubles at home. It says here, Iranian spies working with Kurdish insurgents, soldiers ambushed and killed, millions spent caring for a flood of refugees, lost trade and havoc in border regions. One person said, "What do we have to do with Syria? The prime minister and his wife used to go there for tea and coffee." Probably that's about it. It says, while many Turks at first supported the policy as they stand for democracy and change, many now believe that it is leading to instability at home, undermining Turkey's own economy and security. Finishing up, suddenly Turkey appears vulnerable on multiple fronts. A lot of Turks are seeing this as a direct result of their aggressive posture against Assad and Syria. Then I found this article from the 25th. Today, Turkey's pro-Kurd party urges talks to end Kurdish conflict. The head of the Turkey's main Kurdish party has called for talks between the government and Kurdish militants to prevent a further escalation of violence, which she said could undermine efforts to draw up a new, more liberal constitution. So, some background, more than 700 people have been killed since elections in June 2011, according to this crisis group, the highest toll in a 15-month period since Kurdistan Workers' Party chief was captured and jailed in 1999. So, Turkey's pro-Kurd party urges talk to end the Kurdish conflict. Well, remember this article. Erdogan of Turkey tells media not to cover Kurdish conflict. So he's directly instructing journalists to stop covering the long-standing conflict.
The Chinese Navy is now the owner of its first aircraft carrier. The 100-foot vessel is a former Soviet ship called the Varyag that was placed into service Sunday in the port city of Dalian. The Global Times reports a Chinese shipbuilder made modifications to it. Beijing has asserted that the ship is no threat to its neighbours, but it comes at a time of heightened tensions in the East and South China Seas. Relations have flared up between the Philippines, Vietnam and Japan in recent months. Just last week, Beijing postponed a ceremony to mark 40 years of normalized relations with Japan, sparked by a row over disputed islands in the East China Sea between the two neighbours. They are known as the Diaoyu Islands in Chinese and Senkaku in Japanese. Last week, Tokyo bought 3 of the 5 islands from a disputed landowner. Japanese Vice Foreign Minister Chikao Kawai recently commented on the issue. Because of the current difficult situation, I plan to explain what Japan is now considering to Zhang Zhijun and listen to what China is considering for the importance of the relationship between both countries. Officials in Beijing are also coming down hard. This year marks the 40th anniversary of normalization of diplomatic ties between China and Japan. It should have been an important opportunity for both sides to push ahead bilateral relations. However, the Japanese government insisted on buying the disputed islands, which has severely violated Chinese territorial sovereignty, hurt the feelings of the Chinese people, and grimly jeopardized China-Japan relations. Japan must face all the consequences and take responsibility. Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihiko Noda has called for calm as he travels to New York for the United Nations General Assembly. I plan to talk about preventing conflict and looking towards a peaceful solution in my general speech. I also look to convey that in bilateral meetings between the two countries. In a move that could further complicate the territorial row that is threatening relations between Asia's biggest economies, a group of fishermen from Taiwan, which also claims the Rocky Isles, said as many as 100 boats escorted by 10 Taiwan Coast Guard vessels would arrive in the area later on Monday.
So I'll put the links in here. Japan fires water cannon to turn away Taiwan boats. I thought it was some kind of joke or something, but it was pretty serious. U.S. says disputed islands are covered by Japan Defense Treaty. The U.S. Assistant Secretary of State said islands at the heart of the dispute between Japan and China fall under an American defense pact with Japan, while urging the sides to resolve the standoff via diplomacy. You can also check out the Zero Hedge article. It's actually kind of comical. I'll include the link, so in YouTube's video description. Leaked pics of cutting-edge Chinese fighter. So I thought that ship was like new or something, this one, but it was actually a Russian one. So on September 15, 16, images of the cutting-edge Chinese fighter jet appeared on the web. The state-of-the-art aircraft bears strong resemblance to the American F-22 Raptor and F-35 Lightning II. So, you know, the thing about the UN, they had two, I don't know what they were, F-22s, F-16s or something like that, flying to chase some pilots around, because, you know, anytime they have events now in Chicago, the NATO summit or whatever, they always declare no-fly zone, so they scare off little, you know, prop job planes, Cessnas with fighter jets, you know, because there's a good chance that all these families are working together, creating this chaos, and it's all just a big business. But when they go to those UN meetings, they try to act as if there's some kind of diplomacy and debate and stuff going on. Plans are being hatched, ties are being mended, but it's all about business, right? So just like I said before, this is all about some natural gas reserves and that were found in that area. Japan ruling party retains Prime Minister Noda in office. He won 818 points out of the total 1,200. So far, about 70 lawmakers have quit the party in protest against Noda's unpopular legislation, which includes a hike in sales tax and the restarting of idled nuclear reactors. Remember, they said, oh, we're going to stop nuclear. And then within days, not even a week, they said, oh, actually, we're not. So, big money supporting him, probably. And finishing up on Japan, would you eat a gourmet burger made with charred bamboo and squid ink? So, restaurant has created a premium Kuro burger to mark the 5th anniversary of trading with Japan. So, there you go. Bamboo charcoal. Soul searching in China over man beaten senseless by anti-Japanese protesters. Residents take photos of a smashed up Japanese branded car during anti-Japan's protests. So this thing was probably provocateur from the top, talking about the party there in that country. China is now being forced to contemplate just how out of hand the protests became, or how much they let it get out of control, right? Like I said before, useful idiots. What the fuck do they care about some stinking islands right there, right? Chinese protester opposing government takeover of village land is crushed to death by state-controlled road flattening truck. So reports claim the government then tried to hide the body and send security to quell anger from residents. Apparently, the victim had refused to accept a small sum or bribe so that government officials could claim the land for commercial use. Yeah, so there's a pair of human feet can be clearly seen underneath the giant wheels. So man, that sucks. A police shoot villager during land seizure protest in China. So this is from September 4th. Though the villagers don't often own their land outright, private property is not so much respected in China. They do hold leases on the land and theoretically supposed to be compensated for seizures, though they generally complain the compensation is too low. So it got pretty crazy. Go check it out. Link we posted. It said Wang set himself ablaze and jumped at, I guess, the police officer or whatever, and was shot dead by the cop. Speaking of land disputes, America, the next hot investment for China's elites. So a nice big fat home. So Chinese foreign direct investment in the U.S. is at an all-time high. Then next up we have riots break out at Foxconn factory in China. This is the place that was using students as forced labor, and then you had nets they put up on the rooftop so people couldn't kill themselves jumping off the roofs. But it was supposedly kicked off after security guards allegedly hit a worker around 10 p.m. on Sunday. Been meaning to get to this. Alaska F-22s deployed to Pacific even as tensions escalate between China and Japan. It was part of routine, but they're going to go with it anyways. It was actually U.S. territory of Guam. Speaking of which, U.S. Marines have an exercise to retake islands in a Guam drill. Apparently, the exercise is aimed at bolstering their ability to defend remote islands. And Leon Panetta of the U.S. says there's a possibility of U.S. troops in New Zealand. The number of troops rotating through Australia will increase in coming years to reach 2,500 by 2017. Talking about North Korea, remember this? North Korea to introduce farming reform that allows farmers to keep more of their crops instead of handing them over to the state are being introduced. Also, North Korea's leader said in an address he promised improvements to the educational system. South Korea fires on a North Korean fishing boat. They say they crossed a disputed boundary. Georgia and South Ossetia are preparing for new hostilities in the region. Russia's going to keep their Kyrgyzstan, Central Asia base, and they also approve a military base in Armenia. Thank you.